As we approach another Memorial Day weekend, there are two questions that we must answer. The first one is this: why do we remember? In the United States, Memorial Day weekend often represents family gatherings and barbecues and sporting events. And in the midst of all of that, somewhere we stop, even if only for a minute, to remember. We remember the men and women who have gone before us and paid with their lives the ultimate price for the freedoms that we enjoy. But in all of that, and we go through that process, we have to ask the question, why? Why is it important that at least one weekend out of the year we pause to remember? We are in a moment in our nation's history, unlike perhaps any other moment in our nation's history. We're at a moment where many of us have concluded that the freedoms that we enjoy and the liberties that are ours as Americans are under assault. We see Americans who perhaps have not thought about the liberties that they enjoy in their entire lifetime now standing up to defend those. We see on display what happens when the government begins to infringe on our right to do the things that we as Americans enjoy doing. These are questions that we're asking for the first time and thoughts that we're having for the first time. And I think these stand in stark contrast on this Memorial Day weekend with the question, why do we remember? The reason we must remember those who have gone before us and those who have paid the ultimate price for the freedoms that we enjoy is because if we don't remember, if we forget the cost of our freedom, then we begin to take for granted the freedoms that we enjoy. We think that these freedoms are indeed free, and although they are freedoms that we enjoy, they came at a great price. They came at the cost of millions of American lives, millions of young men and women who, on places around the world, on those forgotten shores, laid down their lives so that we could pursue those ideals of life, liberty, and happiness. We're thankful to be Americans, but if we forget the price that was paid so that we could live on the greatest nation on this planet, then those freedoms that we have for so long enjoyed will begin one by one slipping away. We must remember. I'm thankful that on our calendar we have this weekend, a weekend where we can celebrate with family and we can have barbecues and enjoy sporting events. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, we can pause to reflect on the lives of men and women whom we may not have ever known, who we honor for the sacrifice they made so that we can spend the time with family and enjoy a good barbecue and engage in sporting events underneath the blanket of security that they purchased with their lives. That's why we remember. Because if we don't remember, then we forget. And if we forget, then we begin to live in a nation unlike the one that we are so privileged to enjoy. The second question on the heels of that is this: how do we honor their memory? We must remember so that we can continue to push forward the ideals of freedom that we enjoy, so that we don't forget the great cost that was paid for this liberty. But how do we honor their sacrifice? How do we honor what they've done on our behalf? How do we live in the freedoms that were purchased with their sacrifice? I love that we have a weekend set aside to remember that involves things like family gatherings and barbecues and sporting events. I love it because that's exactly what we should do to honor the sacrifice that they made. Not too long ago, I had a phone call with a military member who was struggling with some things that happened in combat. He was struggling with the loss of people that he considered his brothers, those that he considered closer than family. And as he reflected on their deaths, he asked this question: how do I live knowing the sacrifice that they made? You know the answer? The answer is to live in light of their sacrifice. We should not mourn the sacrifice that was made, but we should honor that sacrifice by enjoying the freedoms and pushing forward the ideals that they thought worthy of their lives. We should spend time with our families because we can. We have that freedom. We should spend time doing the things that we enjoy because we can, because of what they've done with their lives. Memorial Day is an opportunity for us to remember, as we should, because remembering puts freedom in its right perspective. And it's a weekend, an opportunity that we have to pause and make sure that we're living in a way that honors that sacrifice. Here at the Mighty Oaks Foundation, we have the privilege every day to serve men and women who have served us. And it is because of the sacrifices of those that have gone before us that we're able to continue serving those who are alive and well, who perhaps are struggling with some things that they've had to deal with in their past, but are able to move forward and carry the ideals of freedom forward with their own lives, and with us being able to come around them and help them move forward in a great way. I would encourage you on this Memorial Day weekend, remember, enjoy the freedom that they purchased, enjoy those who are around you because you have the freedom to do so, and find those who have served or are still serving, and thank them for what they've done, and do all that you can to encourage them as they move forward. And I would encourage you to visit mightyoaksprograms.org and find other ways that you can engage in serving the men and women who have gone before us.